Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into something pretty amazing, the journey of a drug through your body. We're going to explore the world of pharmacology, and it's going to be a fascinating ride. So let's jump right in. I mean, think about it. It really does feel like magic, right? You pop a tiny pill, and somehow it knows exactly how to find that massive headache you've got and just turn it off. Well, it's not magic, but it is some seriously cool science. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. So, the name for the science is pharmacology, and really, it's the study of how drugs and living things interact. You can almost think of it like a conversation happening inside you. The drug says something to your body, and your body says something back. It's this two-way street that makes everything happen. Okay, so to get the full picture of this conversation, we have to look at it from both sides. First, we have pharmacodynamics. That's a fancy word for what does the drug do to the body? It's the drug's mission, its goal. And then we have pharmacokinetics, which is the other side of the coin. What does the body do to the drug? Let's start with the drug's perspective first.
All right, part 1, pharmacodynamics. Let's figure out how these drugs are so smart, how they find their exact target in the body.
You know, the best way to picture this is the classic lock and key idea. Think of your cells as being covered in millions of tiny, specific locks. We call these receptors. And most drugs? Well, they're designed to be the perfect key for one and only one of those locks. It's this incredible specificity that lets them work without causing chaos everywhere else.
So how does it work exactly? It really boils down to 3 steps. First, the drug molecule makes its way to the right cell. Then comes the binding. The key finds its matching lock and fits snugly inside. That ability to bind is what we call affinity. But just fitting isn't enough, right? The key has to turn. That's the final step, activation. When the lock turns, it sends a signal, and that's what causes the effect. We call that ability to activate the receptor efficacy.
Now, what's really interesting is that not all keys work the same way. We have what's called an agonist. This is the right key. It fits, it turns, and it activates the receptor, causing something to happen. But then you have an antagonist. Think of this as the wrong key. It fits into the lock perfectly, but it doesn't turn. It just sits there, blocking the lock so the real key can't get in. A great example of this is an antihistamine for allergies. It blocks the histamine receptors so the stuff causing your sniffles can't do its job. Okay, so we've covered what the drug does when it gets to its destination. But what about the journey itself? This brings us to the other side of the story, pharmacokinetics. Let's follow a drug through the 4 stages of its trip through you. This whole journey has a handy acronym, ADME. That stands for absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion. It's basically the life cycle of a drug, from start to finish. Let's walk through each step. First up, A for absorption. This is all about how the drug gets into your system in the first place. You can think of your bloodstream as this massive superhighway. For a drug to get anywhere, it needs to get on that highway. If you swallow a pill, for instance, the absorption happens in your stomach and intestines. That's its on-ramp. But getting onto that highway isn't always easy. The drug has to cross cell membranes. Some tiny drug molecules can just slide right through. No problem. That's simple diffusion. Others are a bit bigger and need a helper, a carrier protein to get across. That's facilitated diffusion. And then there's active transport. This is like a special pump that uses energy to physically push the drug across, sometimes even uphill against where it would naturally flow. It's a real VIP service. All right, the drug is on the highway. Now we're in the D phase, distribution. The bloodstream acts like a delivery service, carrying the drug all over the body. This is how that pill you swallowed can eventually reach the pain receptors in your head and stop that headache.
But this delivery service doesn't have access to everywhere. Your body has some serious security checkpoints. The most famous one is the blood-brain barrier. You can think of it like the ultimate bouncer for your brain. It's extremely picky about what it lets in, which is great for protection, but also makes it really, really tough to get medications to the brain when we need to. Okay, on to M for metabolism. After the drug has done its job, your body needs to clean up. This is where the liver comes in. It's the body's primary processing plant. It takes the drug molecule and chemically changes it, breaking it down into something that's easier for the body to get rid of. And that brings us to the final step, E for excretion. This is the grand finale. The processed drug molecules are filtered out of the blood by the kidneys, and then, well, they're flushed out of your body, usually in your urine. And just like that, the drug's journey is over. So that's the whole trip. But knowing the route isn't enough.
we have to talk about one of the most critical parts of pharmacology, finding the right dose. It's all about balancing safety and effectiveness. There's a famous quote from Paracelsus, a physician from way back in the 1500s. He said, "All things are poison. The dosage alone makes it so a thing is not a poison." And that is so true. Think about it. Even water can be toxic in huge amounts. With medicine, getting the dose just right is absolutely everything. To figure this out scientifically, we use something called the therapeutic index, or TI. It's just a way of measuring a drug's safety. Basically, it's the gap between the dose that helps you and the dose that could harm you. The wider that gap, the higher the therapeutic index, the safer the drug is considered to be. Let me give you a couple of real-world examples. On one hand, you have something like penicillin. It has a really high therapeutic index, which means there's a huge margin of safety between an effective dose and a toxic one. But on the other hand, you have a drug like digitalis, used for heart conditions. It has a very low therapeutic index. The line between helpful and harmful is razor thin, so doctors have to monitor the dose incredibly carefully. And this is why medicine isn't one size fits all. What's the right dose for me might not be the right dose for you. Things like your age, your genetics, or even how well your liver and kidneys are working can totally change how your body processes a drug. It's all about finding that perfect, personalized amount. Of course, safety is never more important than during pregnancy. Some substances, which we call teratogens, can cause devastating birth defects. The tragic case of thalidomide back in the 1950s and 60s was a harsh but crucial lesson for the entire medical world on just how careful we have to be. Okay, so we know what happens after you take a pill. But how did that pill even get to exist? Let's zoom out and look at the origin story of a medicine, from a simple idea to something in your cabinet. You know, getting a new drug approved is an absolutely monumental task. We're talking a decade or more and often billions of dollars. It starts with years of lab and animal testing. Then it moves into human trials, starting with just a few healthy volunteers to check for safety and then expanding to thousands of patients to prove it actually works. And even after all that, once it's on the market, it's still monitored for years to make sure it's safe in the long run. It's an incredibly thorough process. So there you have it, from the lock and key action of pharmacodynamics to the incredible ADME journey of pharmacokinetics and the crucial science of getting the dose just right. But you know, this field is constantly moving forward, and the next big frontier is personalized medicine. As we get better at understanding our own individual genetic codes, we're moving towards a future where medicine isn't just prescribed for a condition, but for you. Imagine getting a drug designed to work perfectly with your unique body chemistry. So I'll leave you with this thought. What does that future look like to you? Thanks so much for joining me today.